Once you get away from the big city, whatever constitutes a big city where you're from, prices for renters begin to fall. Every state has that one locale where the standard of living is high but the cost of living is low. For some, it's a college town. For others, it's that underrated city far from the coast. Some communities are state capitals, others are beach resort towns. But where are the most affordable cities in each state? From Alabama, the lowest average rent in the nation at $401 a month, to Honolulu, still the least expensive in Hawaii at $1,872 monthly. Here's the full list of each state in the union's most affordable city, based on the average rental price for a one-bedroom apartment. So in today's video we're going to show you cheapest places to live in every state in 2024. Pay attention once, as this video will progress and more cheap cities will be coming, so watch the entire video without skipping. But before starting the video, I want to request you, we put our best efforts to create our every single video. So please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Let's start. Number 50, Casper, Wyoming. In a desolate corner of western Wyoming, in the shadow of Casper Mountain, is the small city that shares its name. Casper, despite its population of just 55,000, is still the second largest in America's least populated state. The city along the North Platte River is a town rich both in oil history and cowboy lore. Named in honor of Lieutenant Casper Collins, son of the city's original fort's commander killed in battle nearby, the city retains the spelling Casper due to a long-forgotten typo on the town's registration. In the present day, the city offers a plethora of economic and recreational activities, perfect for families. In 2010, the town placed in the top 10 on Forbes' best small cities to raise a family. Despite its reputation as a family-friendly town, Casper is still affordable for couples and solo renters. At 40.2% below the national average, a one-bedroom apartment rents for an even $800 a month on average. Number 49, Monona, Wisconsin. Out in the middle of western Wisconsin, somewhere between Eau Claire and Minneapolis is Monona, a town of just 16,000 surrounding Lake Minneman. The town was originally settled as a lumber industry base with multiple mills along the banks of Wilson Creek and Red Cedar River. Today, the town is a small town getaway for the Chippewa Valley community, named one of the 20 best small towns in America by Smithsonian Magazine. Most of the recreation and commerce revolve around Lake Minneman. Average rents in Monona are among the most inexpensive on our list, coming in at $540 a month, nearly 60% below the average across the nation. Number 48, Morgantown, West Virginia. On the other side of the country is one of the East's major college towns, Morgantown, campus site of West Virginia University. So important is WVU to Morgantown that the population of the city doubles from 30,000 to 58,000 when school is in session. The district is filled with a variety of eateries and restaurants of a variety of cuisines, beer aficionado breweries and college sports bars and cultural attractions such as Mainstage Morgantown and Metropolitan Theater. Despite its vast university system, modern amenities, and exciting downtown that any coastal city would be proud to have, Morgantown remains affordable. Not only is it the best value for renters in the state, but one of the top 10 on this list, as well, with rents a reasonable $522 a month for an average one-bedroom, 60.7% below the national rate. Number 47, Pullman, Washington. Far away from the coffee and Amazon hipsters of Seattle, Pullman is a city of 30,000 along the Idaho border. As the home of Washington State University, Pullman is a true college town, a small burg with a large university as its primary employer and economic foundation, dominating the city's identity. Any good college town needs a great college neighborhood. In Pullman, that's College Hill, the campus hangout district near Martin Stadium filled with fraternity and sorority houses, cafes and, of course, college bars, including the beloved Stubble Fields, Valhalla, and the Coug. For college students and townies alike, the rents are the lowest in Washington state. A one-bedroom unit lists for $768 a month on average, 42.7% south of the national average. Number 46, Salem, Virginia. You might say Salem is the small college sports capital of the world. The town of 25,000 plays host to the NCAA Men's Division III Basketball Championship, Volleyball Championship, and Softball Championship. This has brought thousands of visitors and millions of dollars to the municipality that's the county seat of Roanoke County in western Virginia. Today's Salem rebels surrender to the lowest average rents for a one-bedroom apartment in Virginia at $756 a month, 43.6% below the national figures. Number 45, Essex Junction, Vermont. First, a bit of New England geography. A state is made up of counties. A county is made up of towns, which operate like cities. The towns are made up of villages, which operate like neighborhoods. That being said, the village of Essex Junction, in the town of Essex, is the most affordable city in Vermont for renters. But, being New England, affordable is a relative term. In fact, with an average rent of $1,430 a month for a one-bedroom apartment, the third highest on this list, Essex Junction, is 6.7% above the national average. The quaint New England village boomed into a modern city in the 1950s with the opening of a major IBM facility, which today, under the GlobalFoundries name, still employs more than 3,000 people. Number 44, West Valley City, Utah. Can you name the second largest city in Utah? Unless you're a Mountain West geography aficionado, probably not. The answer is West Valley City, Salt Lake City's largest suburb and, as the name implies, within the valley to the west of the city. West Valley City only dates back to 1980, when the unincorporated towns of Hunter, Granger, Chesterfield, and Redwood merged to form the new city. But it was 22 years later when West Valley City got its turn in the spotlight as home to the ice hockey tournament at the 2002 Olympic Winter Games. Situated in the midst of the beauty of the Great Salt Lake and the surrounding mountains, it's hard to believe West Valley City is the most affordable in the state. Rents here for an average one-bedroom list for $852 a month, 35.6% under the national average. Number 43, Amarillo, Texas. The city of 200,000 is the largest in the Texas Panhandle, and the meatpacking industry employs more Amarillians than any other, with 3,700 at Tyson Foods leading the pack. Far away from the bustle of Dallas, Houston, and San Antonio, Amarillo is culturally and historically distinct from its more expensive neighbors, which is reflected in the cost of living. An average one-bedroom apartment rents for just $590, a full 56% below the national figure. Number 42, Johnson City, Tennessee. One of the three cities that make up the Tennessee and Virginia Tri-Cities region along with Kingsport and Bristol, Johnson City is an important economic and tourist hub along Interstate 81. And that claim is backed up with some cash. Johnson City has been named, among other things, the 5th least expensive cities for living by Kiplinger, 8th best place for African Americans to retire by Black Enterprise, and one of the 35 best small places for business and careers by Forbes. Not only is Johnson City the most affordable of the Tri-Cities, but it's the best apartment value in all of Rocky Top. At 47.3% below the national average, rents here average just $706 a month for a one-bedroom. Number 41, Aberdeen, South Dakota. Aberdeen is a city built of its own failure. Like many western cities, Aberdeen was thrust into importance due to a railroad opening. But it wasn't supposed to be. Today, Aberdeen is a city of 26,000, South Dakota's third largest. Still a station for Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railway, Aberdeen offers numerous hotels along its U.S. Route 12 commercial corridor, including the Super 8 Aberdeen East, the very first Super 8 ever opened. Rents for a one-bedroom apartment average $667 a month, nearly half of the national average. Number 40, Anderson, South Carolina. Anderson is the smallest of the three cities that make up the northwestern corner known as Upstate South Carolina. Upstate is a region of 1.3 million South Carolinians along the Interstate 85 commercial corridor that also includes the cities of Greenville and Spartanburg. Anderson itself has a unique history and is known as the Electric City. In 1895, a hydroelectric plant was opened on the Rocky River, supplying power to the city and making Anderson one of the first cities in the southeast to have electricity. At 45.3% below the national average, a one-bedroom lists for $733 a month on average. Number 39, Warwick, Rhode Island. Even though Providence may be the capital and the largest city in Rhode Island, Warwick, the second largest, may be the better locale. Not only is it affordable, with an average one-bedroom apartment listing at $1,089 a month, 18.7% below the national average, it offers a shoreline that PVD just can't match. Warwick sits on a snub-nosed peninsula southeast of Interstate 95 surrounded by the Providence River, Greenwich Bay, and Narragansett Bay. Commercial businesses and shopping centers run along Airport Road near Occupesatuxet Cove. And pizza joints and family fun centers surround the intersection of Warwick Avenue and Sandy Lane. Number 38, Indiana, Pennsylvania. For those not familiar with the western Pennsylvania town, Indiana sounds like a bit of geographic miscalculation. Along with other oddly centered Keystone State towns like California and Jersey Shore, Indiana has suffered through its share of confusion from travelers and mapmakers alike. But its name origin is of no mystery, meaning the land of Indians, as is the state to its far west. Whether you're here for summer in the mountains or a festive Christmas time, rents are the most affordable in Indiana at just $546 a month for an average one-bedroom unit, just under 60% below the national average. Number 37, Salem, Oregon. If living in Oregon intrigues you but Portland seems a little too hipster for you, Salem may be a great option. While Portland and Salem may both have been named after other New England cities, the state capital and second largest city is just under an hour to the south, close enough for a day trip, far enough away to keep its own identity. For close proximity to Portland but with a less trendy aesthetic, Salem is your best value in Oregon. An average one-bedroom apartment rents for $979, about 27% below the rest of the nation. Number 36, Enid, Oklahoma. Stake your claim on fun in Enid, a city with a fascinating history, vibrant shopping, unique dining, and a bustling music scene. You'll find plenty of interesting things to do in Enid, Oklahoma. The historic town of Enid was a well-known watering hole and overnight stop along the Chisholm Trail before it opened for settlement as part of the Cherokee Strip land run. That's a lot going on in the city of 50,000. But if you're a renter looking for value, Enid is a hot commodity. At just $443 a month for an average one-bedroom rental, Enid is the second most affordable city in the entire nation, with rents 67% below the national average. Number 35, Troutwood, Ohio. In a state with large metropolitan regions such as Cincinnati, Cleveland, and Columbus, an important city like Dayton can be overlooked. And just outside Dayton is the key suburb of Troutwood. The commuter community of 25,000 sits just to Dayton's western edge, with a large section of its southeast side literally intermingled with the city of Dayton. The arena may be gone, but you can still come stay at one of the most affordable cities in the nation. At a monthly average for a one-bedroom apartment of $513, the 61.7% price below the national average is among the lowest on this list. Number 34, West Fargo, North Dakota. The infamous Coen Brothers movie put the city of Fargo on the map for most people. But just to its west, of course, is the suburb of West Fargo, which is the sixth largest city in North Dakota on its own. As Fargo's largest suburb, West Fargo is a significant commuter town supporting business in the larger community. But West Fargo retains its own identity as a community. To live just 15 minutes down Interstate 94, business from downtown Fargo, it will set you back just $675 a month on average for a one-bedroom unit, just about 50% below the national average. Number 33, Ashboro, North Carolina. A half hour from Greensboro, 45 minutes from Winston-Salem, an hour from the Research Triangle and 90 minutes from Charlotte, the town of Ashboro at the geographic center of North Carolina is both in the middle of nowhere and close to everywhere. For all its convenience to North Carolina's largest cities, Ashboro still offers some of the most inexpensive rent in the nation. At an average of $503 for a one-bedroom apartment, the 62.5% price below the national average is the fifth most affordable on this list. Number 32, Leroy, New York. The town of Leroy provides efficient, accurate, and professional information and services to the community while respecting its small-town character and quality of life. Even though Jell-O left town decades ago, it's an inexpensive place to move into. Far away from the expense of Manhattan, the most affordable town in New York for renters offers a one-bedroom for $612, 54.3% below the national average. Number 31, Las Cruces, New Mexico. Las Cruces is a southwestern city of many facets. It's an immigrant and Latino community sitting under an hour north of the Mexican border at El Paso. It's a naturalist community in the shadow of the Oregon Mountains. It's a college town, home of New Mexico State University. It's a military community with its largest employer the White Sands Test Facility and Missile Range. It's a 21st century spaceflight community containing the headquarters of both Spaceport America and Virgin Galactic. And it's a retirement community with 13% of the population over the age of 65. Whether a newly minted American from south of the border or a senior looking for a quiet retirement, rents in Las Cruces are affordable. An average one-bedroom apartment rents for $694 monthly, 48.2% below the national rate. Number 30, Lindenwold, New Jersey. Many towns in South Jersey share attributes. A few lakes, some nice parks, a handful of locally loved restaurants, a nearby highway exit and, of course, a couple of Wawas. Lindenwold, in Camden County, is no different. But a combination of factors has allowed it to stand out from the crowd. Lindenwold most certainly benefits from its location. The city is just 45 minutes from Philadelphia and an easy hour drive to the shore. Lindenwold Memorial Park is the largest athletic facility and green space in the city. It has favorite local restaurants like the Little Tuna, the Laurie's and Napoleon's Crema Puffery and, of course, a Wawa along White Horse Pike. The average rent for a one-bedroom unit here is 36.2% below the national average at $855 a month. Number 29, Concord, New Hampshire. At just an hour and a half from the Boston metro area, depending on traffic and where you're headed, Concord is far enough from the big city to feel a separation, yet close enough as to not feel disconnected. The state capital town, founded in the 1720s, is today not only the seat of government in the Granite State but also a hub for the healthcare and insurance industries. While Concord is the most affordable city in New Hampshire for renters, it is still New England. One of the highest rates on this list, an average one-bedroom rents for $1,014, 24.3% ahead of the national average. Number 28, North Las Vegas, Nevada. Leave the casinos, neon lights and high rollers to Sin City. North Las Vegas, tucked into the northeast corner of Las Vegas proper and just 5 miles or so north of the Strip, is not a shining tourist town. The residential Las Vegas suburb is a commuter, technology and distribution commerce community that includes industrial facilities like the headquarters of Bigelow Aerospace, 2 Amazon fulfillment centers. North Las Vegas is a unique collection of residential neighborhoods, suburban commerce, tourist attractions, gaming and, well, a lot of desert. But for its proximity to Las Vegas, an average one-bedroom apartment lists at just $995 a month, the most affordable rate in the state, 25.7% under the national average. Number 27, La Vista, Nebraska. One of the largest suburbs of Omaha, La Vista is a 60-year-old development southwest of the city that sprung out of eastern Nebraska's business and population growth in the second half of the 20th century. The city is a planned grid of housing tracts and apartment complexes interspersed with parks and retail corridors, primarily along Harrison Street. The western side of town past 108th Street is mainly services businesses, warehouses and industrial facilities, plus big box and chain shopping off Interstate 80. Rents in this commuter community are 42.8% below the national average, with a one-bedroom unit averaging $766 a month. Number 26, Billings, Montana. Billings is the largest city in Montana by far, which is a blessing for renters looking for affordable accommodations. While the number of amenities and opportunities in Billings attract higher wage jobs and younger residents, the easier access to infrastructure and goods, more available housing, and a push to bring trained talent to the city keep rental rates low. In fact, at an average of $908 per month for a one-bedroom, Billings is the lowest in the state, 30.5% under the average nationwide. Yet another city that came of age as the railroad came through town, Billings was founded alongside the Northern Pacific Railroad in the 1880s. In fact, its growing size and central location allowed Billings to flourish and stake a claim as the primary city in the Intermountain Northwest. Number 25, Waynesville, Missouri. At just 4,800 residents, you may not be familiar with the Missouri town of Waynesville. But for a city its size, it has much to offer. Waynesville sits in the heart of the beautiful Missouri Ozark region, featuring stunning forests and mountains, lakes, rivers, extensive hiking, biking and climbing trails, water sports facilities, and camping destinations. Additionally, the large Fort Leonard Wood U.S. Army training installation lies just to the south of town. This small spot of central Missouri paradise is one of the most affordable towns on this list, with an average one-bedroom rental listing for $510 a month. At 61.9% below the national average, it's the seventh lowest among our study. Number 24, Gulfport, Mississippi. Adjacent to its sister city, Biloxi, to the east, Gulfport is a key resort and entertainment city on the north shore of the Gulf of Mexico. Having survived Hurricane Camille in 1969 and Hurricane Katrina in 2005, Gulfport has twice rebuilt itself to become a favored tourist getaway and important military town. The booming tourist economy and post-Katrina revitalization have made Gulfport an attractive residential destination. But even with all this to offer, it remains the most affordable Mississippi city for renters, with an average one-bedroom unit leasing for $583, 56.5% under the national average. Number 23, Wilmar, Minnesota. Located in the isolated fields of south-central Minnesota, 2 hours west of the Twin Cities, the city of Wilmar seems at first blush to be in the middle of nothing but many of Minnesota's 10,000 lakes. Like many remote cities of the Midwest, it was the railroad that brought the original populations to town. In Wilmar's case, it was the Great Northern Railway in the 1860s and the Scandinavian settlers that came along with it. Today, industry continues to bring immigrants to town, primarily those from Latin America and Somalia, to fill available jobs at the local Genio Deli turkey plant. Rental prices for one-bedroom apartments in this Land O'Lakes town are just about 50% below the national average, at $664 monthly on average. Number 22, Flint, Michigan. Unless you haven't watched the news any time over the last 30 years, it's no wonder why Flint is the most affordable city in Michigan. Yes, automobile plant closures, financial emergencies, severe population decline, and a water crisis have been the realities of Flint for decades now. But the people of Flint are resilient and continue to take advantage of what the city has to offer, with redevelopment and revitalization continuing to improve the standard of living. But as renewal projects continue to expand, the current downward trend in population, now under 100,000 for the first time in a century, means a surplus of available apartment space and lower rental rates for now. An average one-bedroom unit in Flint can be had for as little as $575 a month, 57% below average across the nation. Number 21, Chicopee, Massachusetts. While about the same geographic size as Springfield to the immediate south, Chicopee is most certainly the suburb in the relationship, with about 100,000 fewer residents. In fact, the town of Chicopee originally formed after the neighborhoods of Cabotville, Chicopee Falls, Willimantic, Fairview and Aldenville separated from Springfield and banded together in the mid-1800s, cementing its relationship with its larger neighbor. But regardless of your background, Chicopee is still pricey despite being the most affordable in the Bay State. An average one-bedroom apartment rents for $1,086, just 19% under the national average. Number 20, Essex, Maryland. Located just north of Baltimore, with indirect access to the Chesapeake Bay and within 2 hours to Washington, D.C., you wouldn't expect the shore town of Essex to be the most affordable in the state of Maryland. Like much of the Chesapeake Western Shore, Essex is a mix of tract housing, commerce along a state highway thoroughfare, marshland, marinas, and expensive isolated bayside neighborhoods. Smart renters will know to get in ahead of the curve as Essex begins its transition into a bayside tourist town. But until then, rents remain affordable, at just $838 a month on average for a one-bedroom, 37.5% under the national average. Number 19, Yarmouth, Maine. Just a dozen miles north of Portland, the city of Yarmouth is a picturesque town right out of a storybook New England set novel. The town sits on Casco Bay off the Atlantic Ocean, creating several industries, from shipbuilding to seafood, based on its busy and accessible harbor. Today, these waterfalls, known as First, Second, Third and Fourth Falls, attract tourists and business to the town to witness their beauty. Despite its proximity to Portland, the percentage of commuters out of Yarmouth into the bigger city is small. And while it's the most affordable city in Maine, the price of an average one-bedroom apartment is close to the national average, the fourth most expensive on this list at $1,272 a month on average. Number 18, Hammond, Louisiana. A bit east of Baton Rouge and just north of Lake Pontchartrain from New Orleans, Hammond is a college town of just more than 20,000 residents. Much of the city's economy is based on the student life at Southeast Louisiana University, as well as its large Walmart distribution center. With an average rent for a one-bedroom listing for $692 a month, much lower than its neighbor across the Pontchartrain, Hammond comes in at 48.3% under the national average. Number 17, Henderson, Kentucky. Just across the Ohio River from Evansville sits the small city of Henderson. In the mid-1800s, Henderson was booming as the world's largest producer of dark tobacco, with large tobacco warehouses and stemmeries throughout downtown. Like its neighbor, Newberg is also an inexpensive and convenient suburb for workers commuting into Evansville. At 57.2% below the national average, an average one-bedroom unit rents for just $574 a month. Number 16, Topeka, Kansas. The history of Topeka dates back to just before the Civil War, when the city was founded as a free state city immediately in the wake of the passage of the Kansas-Nebraska Act in 1854. Exactly a century later, in 1954, the U.S. Supreme Court handed down its decision in the landmark Brown v. Board of Education decision, with that key defendant being the Topeka Board of Education, securing the city's place in history. Today, the Kansas capital city is a bustling government town situated between the college towns of Manhattan and Lawrence, both under an hour away. If you're interested in access to such a renowned dish, just $691 a month on average will buy you a one-bedroom unit, 48.4% under the national average. Number 15, Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Spend a day in Cedar Rapids, and you'll be certain to see the Five Seasons symbol all over town. The City of Five Seasons is a moniker adopted by the city to represent entertainment and recreation, to be used during the fifth season, the time you create to get out and enjoy the other four. The city is also deeply steeped in the history of Muslims in America, dating back to the first immigrants from Lebanon and Syria arriving in the city in 1895. The city features the National Muslim Cemetery, the first exclusively Muslim cemetery on the continent, and the Mother Mosque, the oldest mosque in North America. Rents for an average one-bedroom apartment list for $671 a month, nearly 50% below the nation's average. Number 14, Newberg, Indiana. A suburb of Evansville, Newberg sits on the shores of the Ohio River at the border between Indiana and Kentucky. The small town carries a population of just more than 3,300 but resides in the larger Ohio Township, which has a population about 10 times that. These days, Newberg is home to a quaint Main Street downtown with a selection of antique shops, cafes and restaurants, crafted by the city as a pedestrian river town. But with its close proximity to Evansville, Newberg has continued to grow and flourish as an inexpensive bedroom community for commuters. The good news is that at just $503 on average per month for a one-bedroom rental, Newberg is one of the most affordable on this list, a full 62.4% under the national average. Number 13, Charleston, Illinois. About halfway between Indianapolis and St. Louis, the central Illinois town of Charleston might not be as small as you think. The town has a population of more than 20,000, with nearly 65,000 between Charleston and its sister city Mattoon. Additionally, 7,500 undergraduate students matriculate at Charleston's Eastern Illinois University, an expansive campus on the south side of town. Honest Abe would love the affordability of his old stomping grounds. At $464 a month for an average one-bedroom rental, 65.4% lower than the national average, Charleston is the third most affordable city on this list. Number 12, Boise, Idaho. If you think that Idaho is all about potatoes, you'd be mostly right. Of course, the famous Spuds are still king, but today's Boise is the fastest-growing metro area in America. The city has become both a hub for tech startups and a new population for Silicon Valley giants to mine new employees, leading to a downtown building and population boom, especially among millennials. As population and salaries increase, so do rental rates. Even as the most affordable city in Idaho for renters, 21% lower than the national average, a one-bedroom apartment still lists at an average of $1,058 per month, the highest rate for a northwestern state on this list. Number 11, Honolulu, Hawaii. Yes, Honolulu is the most affordable city in Hawaii according to our methodology. But before you get too excited, we must admit Honolulu is also the only city in Hawaii that qualifies in our methodology. Which means it's also the most expensive. At 9.9% more than the national average, the monthly cost of a one-bedroom apartment in Paradise is still a whopping $1,872 on average, the highest of any state on this list. That being said, if you're going to make the move to Hawaii, do it right. A life living among the posh hotels and beach bods of Honolulu like McGarrett, Dano, and Magnum, PI can be yours, but it's going to cost you. Number 10, Albany, Georgia. The residents of Albany would like you to know one thing: their city is pronounced Albany, not Albany like that Yankee city up north. Once you get past that, the 77,000 folks in the Egypt of America would love to have you come set a spell. A large statue of favorite son Ray Charles at the piano is the centerpiece to Ray Charles Plaza and Ray Charles Memorial along the Flint River waterfront, one of several parks on both sides of the water downtown. Rents for a one-bedroom unit are 54.9% lower than the national average, at $605 on average monthly. Number 9, Port Richey, Florida. On the coast? Check. Close to the beach? Just a 40-minute drive. Day trip to Disney World? Under 2 hours away. For all that, you wouldn't expect Port Richey, on the Gulf Coast at the north end of the Tampa and St. Petersburg metro area, to be the most affordable in Florida. But the small town of 2,500 is just that, with an average one-bedroom unit listing for $733, 45.3% below the average nationwide. Number 8, Dover, Delaware. As Delaware's capital city, infrastructure, housing and culture are strong in Dover, which features exciting museums and a slew of historic locales, including First State Heritage Park and the Delaware State Museum. And events such as the Delaware Wine and Beer Festival and Dover Days offer a plethora of entertainment and activities for residents. Situated about halfway between Philadelphia and Washington, Dover has parlayed its central location into the perfect spot for the Firefly Music Festival, the East Coast's biggest and best multi-day music fest, which draws heavily from the two neighboring metropolises. Tax breaks aren't the only affordable economic plan in the first state. At $932 a month on average, the cost of a one-bedroom apartment in Dover is 26.7% below the national average. Number 7, Bristol, Connecticut. If you know one thing about Bristol, it's most likely that it's been the home of ESPN since the 1970s. But the Hartford/New Haven suburb has so much more to offer. Lake Compounds, on its namesake body of water, is the nation's oldest continuously operating theme park, and the American Clock and Watch Museum sits in a residential neighborhood just off of downtown. A significant number of the company's single and solo living workforce lives within Bristol. Because of this, there's an abundance of available apartments, helping make Bristol the most affordable city in the state for one-bedroom units, 36.4% below the national average, renting for $851 a month on average. Number 6. Colorado Springs, Colorado. If Denver is the big city, Colorado Springs is more the trendy, youthful mountain city one imagines when they picture Colorado. The city at the entrance to the Rocky Mountains is a haven for skiers, bikers, and hikers, full of parks and green spaces, marijuana dispensaries, and more than 30 craft breweries. All of those transient residents and tourists cause a scarcity of rental units, which pushes apartment rents higher. While the most affordable city in the state, lease prices are just 14.4% under the national rate, at an expensive average of $1,146, the fifth highest on this list. Number 5. Bakersfield, California. The ninth largest city in the nation's largest state, Bakersfield lacks the cash of its Sunshine State neighbors like San Francisco, San Diego, and Los Angeles. But the Central Valley city at the southern end of the San Joaquin Valley offers a family-friendly reputation, a steady oil and natural gas production economy, and a low cost of living for the state. Low rental prices aren't what one would normally expect in California, but Bakersfield is an exception. At 37.5% below the national average, a one-bedroom apartment runs for $837 a month on average. Number 4. Siloam Springs, Arkansas. Sitting along the Oklahoma border and just a half hour from Missouri is the northwestern Arkansas town of Siloam Springs. In the early 1900s, Siloam Springs grew as a tourist resort town, as legends of the healing powers of the spring water feeding Sager Creek from downtown Springs, Indian Healing Springs, and others spread. Today, Siloam Springs is a well-known spiritual community, housing more than 50 churches within the city limits and hosting John Brown University, a private, interdenominational Christian liberal arts college. Rents here for a one-bedroom apartment run an average of $471, among the 5 lowest on our list and 64.8% below the national average. Number 3. Sierra Vista, Arizona. The beautiful southwestern mountain city of Sierra Vista, literally Mountain View, sits just on the other side of the Coronado National Memorial from the Mexican border. The Arizona town of 130,000 sits in the foothills of the Huachuca Mountains, home to the U.S. Army's Fort Huachuca. The city is also a birdwatcher's mecca. Known as the hummingbird capital of the United States, birders from around the world flock to see the swarms at Ramsey Canyon Preserve. An average one-bedroom unit rents for just $591 a month, 55.9% lower than the national average. Number 2. Anchorage, Alaska. If you're looking to live in one of the most unique places in the U.S., just look up. Anchorage is on top of the world, quite literally. Just 370 miles from the Arctic Circle, Anchorage isn't the land of sled dogs and glaciers you may think. And while Anchorage is the most affordable city in Alaska in which to live, it's certainly not cheap. As people discover the wonders of 20 hours a day of summer sunshine, rental prices for an average one-bedroom will still run you $1,051 a month, high but still 21.6% below the national average. Number 1. Florence, Alabama. While the famous statue of his likeness sits over in Memphis, it's Florence that's the true home to W.C. Handy, the father of the blues. Just across the Tennessee River from historic Muscle Shoals and its legendary sound studio, this music lover's retreat is a short 10 miles south of the Tennessee state border. Despite all the town offers, at an average price of just $401 for a one-bedroom apartment, more than 70% below the national average, Florence offers the lowest rent price of any city on our list. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.